I work hard to earn my pay, and I saved real big today at All-American Ford.
Hey everyone, I'm Jason Savino, the Marketing Director for the All-American Auto Group, and this is the All-American Auto Mall and Old Bridge Updates podcast. This is episode number 49, and I have my brother here as a guest. He is our Fixed Ops Director, Nick Savino. So welcome to my podcast. First time you're on it, but that's my fault. I don't think I've asked you.
Thank you. First time. Thank you.
So let's start with your history. Obviously, I know it, the listeners do not. Started out on Long Island. Talk about kind of your first position at the dealership that our father had on Long Island.
So I started in the car business, washing cars as a car washer when I was in high school. And I moved up in a year or so to valet. And then a couple years after that, I went to college. I stayed home for college, unlike my two brothers who went away to the University of Strata, the University of Maryland. I went to the University of St. John's. I felt the need to stay home and help the family business while my brothers went out and partied. So I worked through college as a night shift service advisor. At the time, at the dealership in New York, we had a service department that was open till midnight. So I went to college all day, and then went to work for a couple hours till midnight for Monday through Thursday and worked all day Saturday. So I worked up through the business as a service advisor, and then I eventually became the service manager once I graduated college and got an opportunity on Long Island, and then continued the same career path once we moved here to New Jersey.
So when we moved here to New Jersey, you were the service manager, or did you start?
I was the service manager, I guess. I didn't really know a whole lot about parts at that point. That was back in 2010, I guess, or so when we moved here. I quickly adopted to the parts department and then became the parts and service director and eventually fixed operations director. Because as glorious as that sounds, fixed operations director, the difference between that and a parts and service manager is I get to organize cleaning toilets and plumbing and electrical work and construction around the dealership.
All operations of the dealership. So that's what fixed ops is, because I've said that before, and it's part service and then operations. All right, so I always tout us and I brag about us as an auto group for sure. Our service department here, 100%, is the number one Ford service department in New Jersey, probably in the Northeast, one of the biggest on the country. And you've done a fantastic job growing that. What do you attribute
You've
that
never
to?
said that to me before. Thank you.
I have, definitely, but now it's on record, so it's okay.
Tom, you see this?
But what do you attribute that to? Obviously, you as a leader is fantastic. Being family owned and operated helps a lot. I tout that a lot. But what else do you attribute it to?
So I'd like to tell you that I had some magical formula that worked, but realistically, when I started here and took over in 2010, we had 2 service advisors. There was no manager here, and had 10 technicians. I've now grown it. I have over 12 service advisors and over 50 technicians here. And simple, basic premise and of being a service department unlike any other. So my life experiences young in the business growing up was seeing how customer after customer came in and had this perception of dealerships and how much time they take, how much they suck, how expensive they are. The biggest thing is how expensive dealerships are. And that's really a big misconception. Most people don't realize you go to Jiffy Lube and everybody thinks it's a 30-minute oil change and that they pay $10 for it. Well, if you look at a Jiffy Lube bill, at the end of it, it's $70 for an oil change because they tack on this fee, that fee, this is that. They upsell like crazy. They're programmed as a corporation to do that. And the 30-minute oil changes never, ever come to fruition. You can't physically do an oil change in under 30 minutes. And a tire rotation and a multi-point inspection where you're safely looking at the vehicle, the safety attributes. So people see these signs on Route 9 over here, 30-minute oil changes. It's complete nonsense.
Happen,
And it's just the customer's perception. So even customers that don't go there, they drive by and they're like, oh man, 30-minute oil change. That's how much I should expect. And it just doesn't work that way. And we're not about that. I focus on making sure that our prices are incredibly competitive with everybody else. Fair market value prices is what I tell everybody. I make sure that we are not ever taking our experience, our knowledge, our tools that most other none other technicians have in this world. We're not taking that and adding that expensive cost to the customer. I want to make sure that we are a dealership that always is fair market value with everything and realistic with customers. So I train everybody that has come to work for me to treat everybody as they want to be treated. Remember their bad experiences. Like everybody has bad experiences with electricians and contractors and plumbers and cable company. They tell you, yeah, we'll be there to fix your cable from 8 to 12. And they turn around and they're like, they don't show up till 2. You get no phone call. They come and they're terrible human beings. I hate to say that. I hope nobody works at a cable company. But I try and put that philosophy to all of my people. And my biggest philosophy, I think, that I can attribute to it is a happy employee makes for a happy customer. So I treat everybody that comes to work for me as respectful and keep them as happy as possible to make sure that that transcends towards the customer and their happiness.
Yep. And one of the things I talk about a lot on my podcast is that we have one of the longest tenured management staffs in the industry that is rampant with turnover. And, you're no different. You have Patsy as a service manager. I mean, he's been here, what wasn't he from Oasis?
He was from Oasis. He's been working in this building for 19 years. He was one of those 2 service advisors I mentioned
that you started with. That's crazy. So that, plays a huge part. I talk about it all the time with sales, how, Joe Petty's been here forever, Mark Powell, some of these folks that a lot of them we even kept from Oasis. So I think that goes a long way with that.
Our Subaru manager, Mike Roman, started off here in Oasis. He's also been in this building for about 17 years. And he was a technician, a senior master certified technician. And after the untimely death of our service manager, Bill Osborne, a few years ago, Mike said, I'd like to take an opportunity. And I interviewed him like I interviewed a whole number of other candidates. And he was the best man for the job. And I can't even say good enough stuff about him. He's fantastic.
Another part that I think I, as a marketing director, use a lot in our advertising is our transparency, which is a big problem everywhere right now. But, customers complain about it from an auto industry standpoint. So the transparency part of it, you signed up for a vendor fairly recently that basically it's a texting platform and a video platform. So can't get more transparent than a technician or a service advisor taking a video and sending it to a customer. So how do you think that has done for our service department over the past year and a half that we've had it really?
So we've had it for about 2 years. And with the pandemic, we really kind of honed our skills with how we use it, because it is, from a business perspective, it's a very difficult thing to get employees to be active and go do this. First of all, a lot of people, unlike Jason and I, don't like to be in front of a camera. And it's changing the way that the service department is run and operated because of how beneficial this is to customers in their eyes. Essentially, a real quick process of what happens is a service advisor, a technician gets a car, puts it up in a lift. Service advisor goes out with a camera, a phone, goes out there and walks around the car and says, okay, hey, this is your brakes. They're good. These are your tires. You're good. Your battery checked. Okay. But look, here's a oil leak coming from here. It's going to be X amount of dollars to replace this oil pan. Just text me back on this after you watch this video. You can call me, text me, discuss it. What do you want to do? Boom, sends that video. And it is so convenient and customers so appreciate it because so many times part of what I teach and part of what the perception of dealerships is, you get a car, it's a $60,000 investment. You drive it to a dealership. It's got all kinds of problems with it. It disappears from the customer's view. It goes into the shop. They have no idea who's looking at it, what's happening with it. And then all of a sudden somebody calls them and says, you need $10,000 worth of work. And it's, paying that and putting that kind of money into a vehicle, it's not a hat, it's not a watch, it's not clothing, it's not food that you can enjoy. It's nothing that you have tangible. So people are like, oh my God, I got to spend that much money on a car. But at least this adds some validity to what we're trying to say. And when we have to call a customer in unfortunate situations and say, hey, this isn't covered under warranty, this could cost you $1,000 to repair, take a look at it. This is what we're talking about. So a customer doesn't just think, we're changing a light bulb for $1,000 because, again, they don't see it, they don't understand it. Very, very few people in this world really understand the inner workings of automobiles. And especially in this day and age, everything has gone from mechanical, where there's a carburetor and 4 spark plugs, and you could take it with your fingers and replace easily. And now it's an entire electrical minefield of this relay, that fuse, this connector, and this wire goes into this module that connects to this module in a spider web of just nightmares.
Just like sensors everywhere. I walk in the shop sometimes, it's crazy to see those big stands with like computers on them and they're plugged into the car and doing readings and stuff. It's like, I would
Great.
assume that a lot of the local mechanics, not to put them down or anything, but I'm sure they don't have a lot of that stuff. And, they're not certified to work on Fords necessarily. Right. They don't have Ford OEM parts necessarily. So I think that makes a big difference here too.
Well, that's how our competitors and these, what we call these little repair shops, that they work on 100 different cars. At any given car, a million different engine sizes, transmissions, and all that stuff. They don't have any of the licensed equipment from Ford because Ford won't sell them any of that stuff. We have hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of equipment. It helps us hone in on problems with Ford vehicles. These other mechanics, they go and they get a lot of non-Ford parts, and it's how they're able to sometimes sell things at a below
They're
cost.
generic. Yeah.
There's no warranty. Any part that we put in at All American Ford comes with a 2-year unlimited mile warranty on the part, because it's coming from Ford and Ford Motor Company. Any dealership across the country backs this same warranty.
Yeah.
So it's things like that a lot of customers don't perceive. One of the other biggest things is, Ford and their engineers have a very specific guidelines for replacing something. For example, you replace a water pump in an Explorer, in a 2018 Explorer. It's got hardware that's called one-time use hardware. That's a nut or a bolt that once you take off, Ford and their engineers say it is extremely dangerous if you ever put that same bolt back on.
Wow.
You have to replace it. So in a water pump job like that, it adds $200 to $300 a cost worth of gaskets hardware that Ford and not just Ford, the federal government also mandates certain safety criteria. So when you go to a mom and pop shop or like a Jiffy Lube and they get a non-Ford water pump from down the block that's a couple bucks cheaper, and it's only a couple bucks, it's never significant.
Yeah.
And they don't have any idea about this one-time use hardware. It's $200 to $300 less, but you're driving around with a safe and unreliable vehicle.
Mm.
And you don't want to put a couple $100 into a car at that kind of expense and have your family or your kids and yourself in danger because one of those bolts pops out and the water pump comes out and the engine overheats, and now you have to buy an engine. Now you have to buy a transmission. There's probably damage on your car. It's stuff like that I try and teach my team and my staff to really try and educate customers to the best of their ability.
No, makes sense. Let's move on to our Ford Mobile Service van. So I talked about a lot on the podcast. We were a pilot program, a pilot dealership. There's only 5 in the country initially selected. Ford Motor Company came out here. I've talked about before that we did a video at my house. I believe I borrowed one of your dogs to use in the video.
My adorable dog.
Yeah. So talk about the Ford Mobile Service van, the process behind it, and what it can do. Because I think when I talk about it and I get questions on it, people assume that it could only be for oil changes. But really, it's oil changes, tire rotation, recalls even. So talk a little bit about that.
So the biggest thing that we try and do is we try in this day and age where Amazon, you order a package and sometimes later in the afternoon or the next day that package is at somebody's house. So people want instant, people don't want to leave their house for certain things. So this mobile van, we were on the cutting edge, the front line. We were one of a very, very small handful of dealers that got this as a pilot program. And we kind of wrote the rule book on what to do and what not to do. There's a perception that this is a money-making van. It is not a money-making van. We don't make money in this van. This is more of a customer retention tool. Yeah. So what it's designed for,
and a marketing tool. I use it.
I mean, it's so powerful. What we use this for is, when we get backed up in the shop and there's a long wait for an appointment, what we try and do is we hook them up with the mobile service van that they'll come to the house and do a quick oil change, tire rotation, recalls. They can make minor repairs on things. The van is a ridiculously expensive van that has all kinds of tools and equipment in there for almost every scenario. And one of the biggest things that we do are the recalls on cars. I am not naive to the fact that when a recall comes out, well, yes, the customer doesn't have to pay for that. People generally have to take a day off of work, have to come in on their day off, come in for an appointment, get a recall taken care of. Again, it's the same scenario where it's not a hat, it's not gloves, you don't get anything from it. It's not a recall where you get chocolate bar at the end. Like
we could do that.
I mean, that would be up to our marketing director. So it's just one of those things where we send them out to their house. If the customers stay inside, there's no contact. They just go in, they knock on the door, they say hello. And 2 of the nicest kids, Max and Pat, in the entire world. And they just turn around and they do everything they had to do in the driveway or in the street real quick. And boom, the customer is done. Saves them so much time and energy and effort from coming to a dealership and getting this kind of work done.
Yep. No, definitely. And if you look at our reviews, especially our service reviews, the biggest things are what we touched on. It's the Ford Mobile Service Van, and it's that transparency. They love the texting. They love the video platforms. So
We have never got a single complaint
From
about the
mobile
Ford
service,
Mobile
yeah.
Service Van.
yeah,
And every survey we have gotten has never been anything less than 100%
yeah.
because people just love it.
It's, I mean, unmatched convenience, and you still don't see a lot of Ford dealerships adopting it, but it's because of what Nick said. It's very expensive of an investment, and it's not going to make you a ton of money. It's you
Not a
know,
money maker.
it's customer retention, and from a family-owned and operated dealership like us, that's more important than making that quick buck on a quick oil change. Just to kind of wrap it up now, talk a little bit about the loaner service situation right now, even the parts situation, how the pandemic and production issues right now has kind of slowed stuff down, and kind of what you want customers to know if they're kind of unaware of what's actually happening here.
So essentially, we have always prided ourselves. We've been the number one dealership in the Northeast with the most loaner cars on the Subaru side and the Ford side
For a while.
for a while.
Yeah.
We've had well over 150 vehicles here. And sometimes customers are surprised when they call us and we say, hey, it's 2 weeks for a loaner car appointment. So what we do is there are so many emergency situations that come up. And honestly, the other dealerships in our area are quite terrible when it comes to assisting customers. They don't offer loaner cars if you don't buy the car from us,
Yep.
from them. So, we give loaner cars out for everybody. If you need wiper blades on the car, for some reason you got to get out before we could put wiper blades on, we give you a loaner car, no charge. If you didn't buy the car from us, it doesn't matter. You make a reservation for a loaner car, or if you're in an emergency situation.
Yeah.
So what we do is we keep a small number of loaner cars each day for just those situations. Customer comes in, it's just this morning downstairs, we had a woman come in with a young child, and her vehicle was overheating. It was a 1998, I think Taurus wagon, yeah, an oldie.
Hmm.
And she came in and she's like, I didn't buy the car from you. I'm on vacation. I'm from Northern Jersey. I don't know what to do. I'm meeting my family down on the beach. And we just took her, no questions asked. I had an extra loaner car, so put her in a loaner car and sent her on her way so she could continue on her vacation. But she mentioned to me what stands out, and what point I'm getting to here is that she called 3 other dealerships in the area and nobody would help her. They all said, we won't take you for 2 weeks and we don't have any loaner cars. And it's like, how do you tell somebody that kind of situation? But that's sometimes why then a customer calls up, and if they need a loaner car for, they have a noise concern inside the car, or a weather stripping's hanging down. And we tell them, hey, listen, we'll put you on a list for a loaner car for a week or so. And, sometimes, most of the time, most of our customers understand and they get it. And they wait for our pristine service. But there's that whole mantra of, well, just take a car off of the lot, just any new car over there, grab a plate and put it on the back of it. And
So
of
people
course,
say
for accounting reasons, insurance reasons, legal reasons, we can't do that.
a million different
A
reasons.
million different reasons. So
Not to
Yeah.
mention right now, there's 0 vehicles because
So,
of the pandemic.
our biggest issue is once this pandemic started, we have no new cars
Yeah.
whatsoever. We took a lot of our loaner cars and we took them out of our service to try and sell them to our customers as new vehicles and used vehicles. So we had to go to the auctions and get as many used vehicles as we could. So once we get these used vehicles, we put them through the shop in a rigorous 169-point inspection to certify the vehicle as if it was a used certified vehicle. So new tires, new brakes, everything new on that car. And now we've taken those and used them as used cars. But even that is dwindling down, and because we're taking more and more cars out and we have nothing, not even used cars to replace. So now we're even shorter on loaner cars. So we just try and do the best we can to get vehicles in and out. This in all last month, all this month, we have technicians that, I will pay a little bit extra money to each night to stay till 8 o'clock. And some of the younger kids and the younger guys, and they'll stay. I feed them. I give them a couple extra bucks in their pocket, and they stay and they try and get as much work done as possible because of this growing list of customers that need our help, that need to get their vehicles in.
And I think the majority of customers starting to understand. I mean, with new car inventory, I see the reviews, I see the comments on social media. They're starting to get at that. I mean, there's some smaller Ford dealerships around us that literally have 0 Explorers, 0 F-150s on the ground. So of course they're not going to have basically any loaners. So I mean, our size gives us that advantage at all times, but especially now. And I think people are starting to get it. But everything you said is perfect as terms of what we do for our customers. And we do take care of our customers customers, but like you said, we'll take on anybody. We're family owned and operated.
Yeah.
We're here for the long haul. We want people, we want happy customers over that quick buck.
Sure.
It's always kind of been our mantra. So that's fantastic. Anything else you wanted to say? Closing remarks? Otherwise, wrap up the episode.
How many episodes deep are you in this?
49.
49. How many have I been in so far?
This is number 1.
Am I going to get invited back?
You made it in before 50. You're in a very exclusive group. I've only had a few guests. Actually, 2 of your service advisors have been guests before. They have been fantastic. Brooke on the Ford side was amazing, and Lawrence on the Subaru side, both service advisors they were both great.
Both incredible.
Both amazing employees. Both have been here for a while. But
are you doing anything special for the 50th episode?
I had
Like
you
all surprise guests come in.
I had you on to lead up to that, so you should feel honored by that. But
I feel like this is the least episode that somebody would watch if you now start advertising 50th.
knowing that 50
episode,
is coming,
big extravaganza 50th episode.
could be the case. Well, I appreciate it. Thanks, Nick. I'll
Yeah.
have you back on, and thanks everybody, and I'll be back next week.
See ya.
Well, everyone can afford an all-American Ford.